Hi guys, the Tories have painted themselves into a corner over the asylum issue. They refuse to invest the resources necessary to process claims, which saw the backlog skyrocket to over 110,000. The solution was to keep people in detention centres longer, but those began to overflow. So the plan was to move them into hotels, but that resulted in violent incidents around the country. It also put pressure on local Tory MPs to do something about the problem. You also had Reform UK draining away support from the Tories on this particular issue. Fearing a rebellion in the party and from the public, the next port of call was to move asylum seekers into disused Army and Air Force bases, but that faced a backlash as well. Now it seems ex-floating prisons is a game changer, with the plan to house asylum seekers on a barge. But this too has split Tory opinion. Here one MP, Richard Drax, poured cold water on the idea.
Land-based reception centres are going to have to be built, whether we like it or not. Yes, it's going to cost money, but I suspect in the longer term it'll cost less than what we're doing now, which is hotels, ships, barges, etc., etc.
He is considering legal action, like those opposing Lincolnshire military base RAF Scampton being turned into temporary accommodation. But the government says these are realistic solutions.
Well, there's a cost of about £6 million a day that we are spending on accommodation for people in this country who are going through that process. And the Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, set out last week about how we're looking for quite a lot of former military bases or other similar sites, but is also actively considering what can be done with some of these floating vessels.
Okay, so what can be done with these floating vessels? I think the approach is out of sight, out of mind. They need to keep this issue front and centre in people's minds, but they don't want to take the asylum seekers completely out of the picture, because then they can't use it as a weapon against the Labour Party, for example. So if they can't eliminate the problem, quote unquote, of asylum seekers, because if they do, then they have nothing. They can't use anything as a tool to convince people to vote for them. They can't get the racists and bigots angry. But they can't continue to house asylum seekers in hotels, because that's upsetting people in local communities. It's putting pressure on local MPs. And they can't put them in Air Force bases, because this is upsetting people as well, because these Air Force bases are nearby, but there are also no resources available for the people in the area. So the people in the bases. So what do? Well, they wander out. It's not a prison. They wander out. They go into the local town. They have nothing to do. So this is going to create problems as well. So this idea of putting them on a barge and, keeping it floating out somewhere out in the sea as a solution, it's going to create huge problems. This is a tweet by Paul Mason, journalist, and he says here we go again. Here's the floor plan of the refurbished barge BB Stockholm, destined for the Portland port, 500 refugees in 220 rooms. Picture yourself there at the height of summer. Can you imagine a barge with 500 people on it, 200 rooms, 2 people per room, more or less, in the middle of summer? The conditions would be absolutely terrible. But this may be what the Tories want, to present it as a deterrent. But also, it's out of sight and out of mind, but it's not in anyone's backyard. It's not near any town or village. Maybe this is the solution that they're looking for. And to hell with the consequences for the refugees. Their health and their well-being is not the concern of the British government. This one anyway. It just seems to be a solution to keep people both interested in this issue of asylum, but not worried or angry with the government or their local MP. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.